Hey World History, welcome to U14-L2, How to Write an Essay, Part 1. I know a lot of you are probably thinking, Ms. Corey, we have written essays like forever and ever in English and maybe other history classes or even other classes beyond that. Well, today I'm just going to go through the basics with you so we're all on the same page and also what I am looking for in this essay. So first, let's look at the calendar timeline for this unit. So Unit 14 is dedicated to nothing but writing this paper. So today we are at How to Write an Essay Part 1. So yesterday or before this video, you should have chosen your historical figure. If you haven't, do it now because you need to. Okay, just a reminder, it's only one student per historical figure. And if there's a historical figure not on the list that you want to do, you need to get it okayed with me first. So email me, Miss Corey. The next video you're going to do is How to Write an Essay Part 2. And then after that, you are going to do your research worksheet. I've dedicated Friday to work time. And then for next week, you are going to do your historical figure paper outline. After that, you are going to start writing your historical figure paper. Again, make sure that your historical figure paper is entirely written on this U14-L6 document. Failure to do so may result in a 0. And then for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I've dedicated nothing but work time for you to write your paper, and that will be due on Sunday, April 28th at midnight. So, if you haven't looked already, this is the prompt for your essay that you will be doing. In your paper, you will argue if your historical figure had a positive or negative impact on their society during the time they were alive. So, you must argue if your historical figure had a positive or negative impact. Okay, you can't do both. You have to choose a side, either positive or either negative. Okay, so let's read through the directions again. I know some of you might have already done that, but let's do it together. So here is the U14 historical figure paper directions. You will choose one historical figure from the list to research or a historical figure that you have gotten okayed by Miss Corey. Once you are done researching, you will write a paper based upon this prompt. In your paper, you will argue if your historical figure had a positive or negative impact on their society during the time they were alive. Your paper must include the following: a minimum of 4 paragraphs, 1 intro paragraph, 2 body paragraphs, and 1 conclusion paragraph. 1 thesis statement in your intro paragraph. That's what we're going to learn about in this video. You are also going to underline your thesis statement. Each of your body paragraphs needs 1 direct quote. So a total of 2 quotes total for the whole paper. So, right? So 1 quote per body paragraph. You only have 2 body paragraphs, so that equals 2 quotes. You're also going to type this in Times New Roman 12-point font, double spaced. You need a total minimum word count of 500 words. So it's not very long if you really think about it. And you must also include a works cited page with at least 2 reputable resources, and that's what you're going to learn about in the next video. Here's my warnings for you. Your historical figure paper needs to be 100% in your own words. I know Grammarly is a hot tool to help you with your papers, but I don't want that. I want only your words. When typing the paper, make sure you type it completely on the U14-L6 Write Historical Figure Paper Here Google Doc assignment on Schoology. Failure to do so may result in a 0 for the grade. So again, make sure you are writing your entire paper on this document. Okay. If you turn in your historical figure paper and you have done a historical figure that someone else has claimed or failed to get pre-approval from Miss Corey about a figure not on the list, you will get an automatic 0 and a chance to redo the paper, but for only up to half the original credit. If you use AI, Grammarly, or plagiarize from a third-party source, you will receive an automatic 0 and no chance of redoing the paper. This is your one and only warning. And of course, you have access to this document, so there's the link to the rubric on there as well. And just again, it is due Sunday, April 28th at midnight. So let me pause for a second. What questions do you have about this paper's directions? All right, let's get back. So, plans for today. We're going to go through a few steps of how to write an essay paper. So step 1, that we're going to talk about what should be on the top of your paper in the title. Step 2 will be Times New Roman font size 12. Step 3 will be an overview of basic structure of the paper. Step 4 will be your introduction. And in the introduction paragraph, we will talk about attention device sentences, 1 to 2 sentences of background information, what a thesis statement is, and why is this important. We'll talk about all of that stuff. And for tomorrow, we will do step 5, body paragraphs and how to do a quote. Then we'll do step 6, which is conclusion paragraph, step 7, which is MLA works cited, and step 8 is how to research. So let's start with step 1. We're just simply going to talk about what should be at the top of your paper and the title. Yeah, seriously, we're just going to talk about that. So at the very top of your paper, in the left-hand corner, I want your name, first and last name. Under that, I want the name of your teacher. So it's either going to be Miss Corey if you have me, or Mrs. Hinkle if you have Mrs. Hinkle. Okay? Next line, you are going to put in the title of your class. For you, it's just World History. And below that will be the day that the assignment is due. So for you, it's going to be the 28th of April, APR, period, 2024. And then with the title of your paper, that is going to go just right above your introduction paragraph. So for your title, it is going to be centered on the page like this, and make sure it is not italicized or bolded. You can call your title whatever, as long as it's relevant to the paper. I'm not really picky, but just make sure you do have a title. Okay, I'm going to pause here. What questions do you have about any of this? All right, let's keep on going. Step 2, Times New Roman font size 12. So you're probably asking, how do I make the text different and how do I make it font size 12? So for some of you, this might be easy. For others of you, maybe not so much. So to make the text font size 12, all you have to do is go up to your toolbar, and this looks pretty much exactly the same as on a Google Doc. You're going to click the font button, and you're going to click on Times New Roman. Now, if you don't have that in your recents, just keep on scrolling down on this one here, and you'll come to Times New Roman. And for font size 12, just simply click on the number and click 12. Bam! Look at that. You got font size 12. Nice job. Step 3, overview of basic structure of the paper. So we're going to talk about the introduction paragraph today. Next time, we'll talk about the body paragraph number 1, body paragraph number 2, and the conclusion paragraph. So right now, let's just talk about the introduction. So with the introduction, there are 4 main things. You need the attention device. After that, you need 1 to 2 sentences of background information. After that, we have the thesis statement, which is the most important thing. And after that, we have you answering the question, why is this historical figure important? So let's start off with the attention device. So here's an example paper that I did a couple of years ago. You'll see this throughout my slideshow. I did my example paper on Clara Barton, who was a nurse during the Civil War in the United States. So of course, you can't do anyone from the United States in this paper. And this is just an example. So here's my example of the attention device. So I say, calling Clara Barton an angel of the battlefield is no understatement. So the attention device is the first sentence of your paper, and it really is meant to grab the reader's attention. And there are many different types of attention device examples. So one of the first examples you could do would be like a bold statement, okay? So here's my example of a bold statement. Jerusalem is the most important yet controversial city in the world. Okay, that's a really bold, like right to the point statement. Another example of a device would include a factual statement. So the global rate for washing hands after using the toilet is under 20%. Okay, so that's a statistic that really grabs the reader's attention and is very concerning. There's also the attention device example of the metaphor. So this is how Davis explains the metaphor hook. So the metaphor or simile hook engages your readers because it makes them think about a topic in a different way. Your audience wonders what you mean and how you compare a topic to something that seems unconnected. So here is my example of a metaphor attention device. So I say statues as mighty as a god and war stories as old as time make Julius Caesar the legend he is. Okay, so I use like the words like and as. Those are typically associated with metaphors. Another attention device would include the description. So a description really paints a picture of the time period or event that you're talking about in your paper. So here's my example. The chill in the air gently presses against the window of the manor, trying to reach its way towards the faint candlelight of the noblewoman, buried deep within her contacts of a book that she has recently collected to her library. Okay, so it's really like figurative language. All right, I will pause there for a second. What questions do you have about attention devices? All right, let's talk about the background information next. So, after the attention device, I want you to give me 1 to 2 sentences of giving background information about the topic, okay? So it can be about the time period, the place, what life was like, etc. So for example, here's my one on Clara Barton. I say, she was a school teacher with no medical training, yet her name has become extremely famous for her medical help and passion towards people who have experienced tragedy. Since the first Battle of Bull Run in the American Civil War, she had been one of the most important people in not only treating wounded soldiers on the battlefield, but also helping families locate dead or missing soldiers. So, in this background information, okay, I talk about how she had no medical training. And she's really famous today because of her nursing. I also talk about kind of the place, the time period. So I talk about battles like the American Civil War. So that gives me time period, also place. It's the United States. And also what she did, for example, treating wounded soldiers, but also helping families locate dead or missing soldiers. So it's just simply give me some information about the person, about the time period, about the place. That is all that background information is. All right, I will pause here for a second. What questions do you have about background information? All right, let's go on to thesis statements. Now, this is kind of the meat of this video today. So, the thesis statement is the most important part of your essay. And it's going to come right after your 1 to 2 sentence of background information. So, again, here's my example. I say, according to Lecha and Clara Barton's missing soldier office, Clara Barton had an overall positive impact on their society due to treating wounded soldiers and finding missing soldiers. Okay? I'm going to break down the thesis statement for you. So, like I said, this is the heart and soul of your paper. If you do not have a thesis statement, you do not have a paper, because a thesis statement tells the reader exactly what your paper is about. So I think a thesis statement's like math formula. So I am going to share with you my very own thesis statement, magical mathematical formula. It looks really daunting at first, but trust me, it's not. I will walk you through this step by step. So before I explain what all the little letters mean, let me just read this out to you first. So, according to W and W, X had an overall positive or negative impact on their society due to Y and Z. Now, you might be wondering, what do these letters mean? So that's kind of what makes it a math formula, because I kind of have what each of the letters mean down here. So let's break this down step by step. So let's start with the W's, okay? So according to W and W, now what W's are in this are the authors or the titles of articles of the resources you are using. So think back to when I read the directions to you. I said that you have to have a minimum of 2 reputable sources. This is where this is going to come into play, okay? So with your 2 reputable sources, I want you to put either the authors here or the titles of your articles. So if you have an author of your article, awesome. Put it here where this W is or this W is. If there aren't any authors for your articles that you're getting information from, that's fine. Just put in the title of your article, okay? That is what W is, okay? Next up is X. So X is the name of your historical figure. So all of you have already chosen your historical figure. So simply just put it in there, right there on X. If you're doing Julius Caesar, put in Julius Caesar. If you're putting in Genghis Khan, put in Genghis Khan. Okay? That's all X is. Just the name of your historical figure. All right? Then let's move on to Y. So Y is your first main point. Okay? And what your first main point is also the topic of body paragraph number 1. Okay? So whatever Y is what you're going to talk about for the entirety of body paragraph number 1. That tells me as a reader what your body paragraph number 1 is going to be all about. And it's going to be the same thing for Z. So Z is your second main point. That is your topic for your body paragraph number 2. So Z is going to be what your body paragraph number 2 is all about. And then the thesis statement is telling me as a reader what it's going to be about. Okay? Okay. Before I ask if you have any questions, let's look back at what I have as my example thesis statement. So again, here we go. According to Leitcha, in Clara Barton's missing soldier office, Clara Barton had an overall positive impact on their society due to treating wounded soldiers and finding missing soldiers. So let me break that down one more time for you. So I say, according to Leitcha, Leitcha is the name of one of my authors from the resources that I'm using. Okay? That's why her last name is right there. In Clara Barton's missing soldier office. So I had an article that I wanted to take information from, but it did not have an author. So instead, I put in the name of the title of the article, which in this case was Clara Barton's missing soldier office. Okay? And then, of course, X is just the name of my historical figure. So for me, it's Clara Barton. Put her right there. So the next part is Y, in treating wounded soldiers. Okay? So this tells me that body paragraph number 1 is going to be totally about how Clara Barton treated wounded soldiers. It tells me as a reader what that first body paragraph is about. Okay? Same thing for Z, finding missing soldiers. That is going to tell me as a reader exactly what body paragraph number 2 is going to be about. Okay? Okay. Before I move on, let me ask you, what questions do you have about a thesis statement? All right, make sure you also underline your thesis statement. I know some teachers like that, some teachers don't. For me, for this one, let's underline your thesis statement. Easy 1 point, right? All right, next up, we're going to talk about why is this important. So at the end of your thesis statement, you are going to have a sentence or two explaining why this person is still important to learn about today. Okay? So, in one sentence, again, tells me why this person is important to learn about today. Now, that's kind of a hard question to answer sometimes. So, here's kind of some helping questions that I gave you. So, did your historical figure, did they have a big military victory? Did they promote a religion? Did they kill or save a bunch of people? Did they write something important? Did they define a gender role? Did they do something extraordinary? Did they invent something? Or how are they known today? Okay? So if you're having trouble, ask yourself one of these questions. So again, your why is it important sentence goes right after the thesis statement. So here's my example. Clara Barton is important to learn about today because she helped standardize ways medical care for soldiers that we still see in the military today. Bam. All right, let's stop here for today. So today we talked about step 1, which was the top of your paper and the title. Step 2, Times New Roman font size 12. Step 3, overview of basic structure of your paper. Step 4, the introduction paragraph, including the attention device sentence, 1 to 2 sentences of background information, the thesis statement, and why is this important. Next video, we are going to talk about step 5, which are body paragraphs and how to do a quote. Step 6, conclusion paragraph. Step 7, the MLA works cited, and step 8, how to research.